Tayshia Adams reacts to Clare and Dale's split, plus she revealed the advice she gave to Clare. Hey guys, welcome back to another shared news from home. We have got to talk about Tayshia's thoughts on the breakup, but before we get into it, if you're new here, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. As always, I'm your host, Fiona Zaring, and I'm joined by the wonderful Mariah Davis. Mariah, this is actually a really interesting take on the split because Tayshia is, of course, so uniquely connected to Clare and Dale. I mean, you guys, had Clare not fallen for Dale and basically given up her season of The Bachelorette, Tayshia could literally have never met the wonderful man that she's currently engaged to. So I feel like her take on them breaking up is definitely interesting. In a new interview with Entertainment Tonight, Tayshia revealed,
I haven't spoken to Dale. I did reach out to Clare. Honestly, I would just say keep to your guys' selves. I feel like it's really easy to get wrapped up in wanting to have your voice heard, and it makes it really messy. And you guys are both hurting right now, so just, reach out to your loved ones and your friends and your family that you can confide in, but just stay out of me.
I mean, I have to say, I think this is really great advice. You and I just talked about that emotional live Dale did, followed by an emotional live from Clare. They've each released separate statements. I know Dale's posted a lot of Instagram stories. He's talked to paparazzi. Tayshia's gone through a public breakup in Bachelor Nation before. I feel like she can totally empathize. And I kind of think Clare should take this advice. What do you think?
Oh, I agree. I think this is great advice, especially for people who are new to kind of being a public figure. I know we've seen Claire on The Bachelor before. She's no stranger to it, but social media is way different than when the last time Claire was on The Bachelor. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that in the spotlight, you have to learn, which a lot of celebrities practice, you have to learn you don't owe anybody an explanation. You don't have to go online and discuss your feelings and how you've been managing. It's nobody else's business. And I think the longer
Mm-hmm.
that they continue to go online and they're sharing things with their fans or with the public, like they're just extending this out even longer than it needs to be, which honestly is only going to prohibit them from really healing and moving on. Perfect advice. And no better, who better to hear it from than Tasha because she's already been through something so similar.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that the more you try to heal alongside your thousands of followers and, invite all of them to unpack these feelings with you, you're definitely not hitting, the level you need to of like internal
Yeah.
private reflection. So I totally agree. I think this was really solid advice. Tayshia obviously like got to know all of the same group of men that were in theory potential suitors, potential husbands for Clare. So I'm just curious, like, I mean, we know there were really great guys in the mix. We saw all of them, have their journeys with Tayshia. We saw her like get to know some really incredible people. I know I didn't even know who I was rooting for until basically the last second. If
Yeah.
Clare had stuck this out, do we think she could have found someone better in that mix for her than Dale?
There's always a possibility. I mean, we're never going to know because that's just unfortunately something that didn't happen. I think the moment that Claire laid eyes on Dale, she was like, ooh, like, done. He's my man. And that's fine. Dale is a fine specimen. So I would too probably be a little excited, but I think maybe she made up her mind too quickly. There were so many incredible men there that were willing to give the relationship a try with her. They had basically put their personal lives on pause so they could be there and explore a relationship with her. So, yeah, I think there's definitely a possibility that she could have met someone that maybe, I mean, who's to say who she would end up with for the rest of her life, but maybe a relationship that would have lasted longer than a couple months. But at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
day, we will never know. And everything happens for a reason, the way it's supposed to. Her love with Dale may have not ended up working out in the end, but it is because of her experience with him that Tayshia found the man of her dreams. And I also think that Claire's man of her dreams is just around the corner.
I'm totally with you. Obviously, we don't know exactly what would have happened, had Claire stuck around, who she could have connected to, who she maybe wouldn't have connected to. But I'm kind of curious, I'm just doing some like math in my own head. Had Claire stayed, Zach, from what we learned of him, kind of feels like the sort of guy that she was looking for. I mean, he shows up for Tayshia. He's ready to, settle down, be in love. But I don't necessarily know if I see it like if Tayshia had started the season off day one, I don't necessarily think she would have connected with Dale. I mean, it's interesting how within the same group of people there can be so many different connections. What is your take on if we played like mixed match with all of them?
That's a weird thing to think about. I mean, if Claire had stayed on longer, given Zach more of a chance, I think she would have seen like he does mark all of the boxes for me. But when I think about the two of them and compare the his connection with Tasha's, I don't think their energies really match up. Like Tasha and him just very much complement one another. And Claire, I just don't see their energies lining up at all. Though I do think, like, ideally on paper, he would have been a great match for her, but we will never know. As far as Tasha starting off instead of Claire, I think, yeah, Tasha would have been like, okay, Dale, like, he's pretty handsome. And she definitely would have given him like a couple tries. But I feel like Tasha has been a real one throughout her entire Bachelor Nation history. And I feel like she would have saw right through him. Not saying that Dale's a phony or anything like that, because I don't know him. But I do feel like eventually Tasha would have been like, I don't think you're here for me. I don't think you're ready for what I'm ready for. She just, I feel like, has had a very clear sense of real people in the past being on the show. So I don't see anything happening there.
And honestly, just looking at like there were incredible guys. We got to know a lot of them. We're rooting for a lot of them. But what Claire was looking for, we've come to realize was sort of very, very specific. And I know you and I have talked about like her and Dale kind of were, going to struggle from the start because they weren't really truly looking for the same things. They weren't really truly on the same page. So I just hope that whether it was one of the guys, on the season or somebody else out there, there is someone who wants to show up for Claire, check all those boxes because she definitely deserves her happily ever after.
Yeah.
Let's go back to Tayshia because she, of course, did get her happily ever after. She walked away from the show in love and engaged to Zac Clark. They recently moved in together in New York City, which is such a huge step. And while she was talking to ET, she gave them an update on their relationship as well. She said one thing that living together has taught her is that he's a very mature man, which I certainly felt like I could tell from the show. Zac has got his stuff together. But she, in typical Tayshia fashion, she did exactly what, we love her for. She kept it totally candid and said, it hasn't been perfect 100% of the time. She explained, like any relationship, we have had struggles. We just went from living apart, him in New York and me in Orange County, to moving in basically on top of each other in a New York City apartment. And I'm just like, hi, I can't go anywhere. This is home. I feel like I can totally picture her saying that. If you're like me and you see New York City apartments all over your TikTok feed, they can be tiny. Struggles and all, they're very happy and of course learning as they go. She also said
It's definitely very different than what I'm used to, but I feel like fights actually don't have to last 6 hours, 8 hours, or go to the next day. Wow. And I think that's one lesson that I've learned more so recently that I'm really thanking my lucky stars for.
So, Mariah, this update to me feels so real, genuine, relatable. I feel like, fans were totally rooting for Zac at the end of this, and they've taken really huge steps in their relationship. They're keeping it real, they're not taking it too seriously. Feel like they might be in it for the long haul. I have a good feeling about them. What about you?
I do too, especially like, so I feel like I keep referring back to Tasha and her relationship with who was it? He was like the surfer boy, like total goofball. What was
John
his
Paul
name?
Jones?
John Paul
John Paul
Jones. I keep
Jones?
referring back to John Paul Jones, and I'm like, they are nothing alike. Because John Paul Jones was a goob. He was such like he had a younger, kind of immature personality, but she kind of dug that. And Zach is so mature and like manly and just kind of gets stuff done. So I really think that they complement each other really well. I see that they're going to work through any issues that they may be presented with in the future, and I'm really rooting for them. I actually think that, like, years down the road, they're going to be, like, one of the ultimate success stories.
I totally agree. And I think you can see it just from like, there are certain people that go on The Bachelor, and I'm like, I don't believe you. I think you thought this could be a fun experiment. You might fall in love, but I don't believe that you're ready to be in love, if that makes sense. Like, you think it could be a fun thing to do. You think it might be great if it happens, but is that like what you're truly ready, looking for, all that jazz? And I think that Zach was. He walked into this like
Mhm.
ready to find the one. And he talked about it during his time on the show, not to gush about Zach, but like through meeting Tayshia and falling in love, he realized he was ready for even more than just like being in love itself, which I think is such a beautiful story. And I think that the fact that they're both sort of learning and growing and acknowledging that they're still learning and growing is a really, really good sign, especially at this stage of the relationship, especially with so many eyes on them. But anyone keeping up with their social media, they look happier, even if it's possible, than they did on the show. She passed on some wisdom for everyone out there who is in a relationship. And she said, when the going gets tough, keep going and just follow your heart and just enjoy your relationship. Be happy. So, again, Mariah, I want to know your take. Do we like this advice? Should we all be following it?
Yes, there's definitely some truth to this. I also believe like relationships are hard and nobody has it that easy. It does take more than just having love for another person. So when things get hard, you can't just toss in the towel because then if everyone did that, we would have no like beautiful relationships to follow after. But also, in response to or a follow up to that, to follow your heart, it's like, yes, when the going gets tough, keep going, but listen to your heart. If your heart's telling you, wow, this just isn't meant to be for us, then you have to know when the time has come where it's time to go your separate ways. Completely agree with this
Yeah.
advice.
No, I'm totally with you. I think, that last little sentiment, be happy. Like, if you're in a relationship and you're just constantly working through it and there's no happiness left over, then what are you doing? I mean, not to go back to
Yeah.
Clare and Dale and all of this, but clearly there was love, there was attraction between the two of them. But that isn't going to be enough if you're in different places. If the tough outweighs the fun, if you can't
Mhm.
just go with the flow and enjoy each other, ultimately it's not going to work out. So, obviously, we've said it before, we'll say it again. Our hearts go out to Clare and Dale, and we're looking forward to seeing where this magical fairy tale of Tayshia and Zach leads them as well. All right, you guys. Well, on that note, we want to know what you think of Tayshia's reaction to Clare and Dale's split and all of that generous wisdom she gave to them, and of course to all of us at home. Let us know down in the comments. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell because we will keep you updated on everything going on in Bachelor Nation. As always, I'm your host, Fiona Zaring. I was joined by the incredible Mariah Davis. If you want to come say hi, our social handles are on the screen right now. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.